Hi everyone. I want to talk about sex and sex that is going on right now, and when we talk about intimacy. Okay, so people think intimacy is sex and sex is intimacy, but that's not always the case. A lot of our sexuality actually has nothing to do with intimacy. Okay, so the deepest layers of ourself is the throat, okay, the heart, and the cervix for a woman, or the perineum for a man. So, what that means is intimacy is a penetration of our deepest parts of ourselves, such as the throat, the heart, the cervix, or the perineum for the man. Okay? So, there are many ways that we can penetrate, even in white tantric yoga, which is literally we are penetrating each other's throat, heart, cervix, perineum, very magnetically. So we're magnetizing these certain depths in our partnership. So white tantric yoga is like a partnership. So you have these two people facing each other. There's these rows. There is these angles that are created in these rows of people that are facing each other. And for 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes, you're literally just doing a position with your partner, and you're holding that position for a very long time. It could be eye gazing, where you're staring their eyes for 30 minutes, for 60 minutes, or you're holding like a position literally right across from each other for 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and you do that basically kind of for like 8 hours, or you can do that for 3 days or 7 days, I don't know, whatever you floats your boat. Okay, so a part of that white tantric yoga, and why they say it is the most powerful of all the tantras, because it penetrates the deepest layers of ourselves. It penetrates those deeper layers of ourselves. So other like yoga, even other like kundalini yoga and other forms of yoga really open up these areas. They massage these areas, they loosen these areas, so that we can have more space in the throat, more space in the heart, more space in, we could say, the cervix, or even this the perineum, this overall reproductive energy center. Okay, so when we create that space, we are able to receive higher energy. And that's what we think of intimacy is. You're receiving higher energy, and it's moving through you. That's what we call being, ecstasy. Like we talk about exotic kind of thing. Is there's energy that's moving through you. It's creating this. It could be this suffering as you're holding the pose, but this bliss at the same time. So what it does for that body is it elevates that body to what we call like a oneness consciousness. In that oneness consciousness, a lot of people are like, oh my god, that's like so woo woo kind of thing. But the white tantric yoga is one of the fastest ways to get to. We talk about that oneness consciousness, where you have that suffering and that bliss at the same time. Okay, and a lot of times we're using sex sex to create that oneness, that intimacy, what we call, with our most innocent and authentic self. So all of us on this planet, we are searching for our sense of innocence, our sense of authenticity, because that is what we call our undeniable, indescribable connection to, we could say, our creation. Okay, we could say a creator, or just an energy of great intuitive awareness. Okay, that's kind of what we think of, like, like a saint, or like an ascended being, as just a very intuitively aware human being, or previous human being. Okay, and sex can be very sensitizing. White tantric yoga is very sensitizing. When you truly penetrate somebody's deep layers, there's going to be sensitivity that's going to be kind of through the opening. Sensitivity becomes available, and sensitivity is how we're able to really receive that energy of that intuitive awareness, where we start to get very sensitive to nature, into ourselves, into people around us, and that's when we experience that level of joy. Okay, so through that suffering and through that bliss of, we could say, in that white tantric yoga, we get to experience joy. Now that joy, for some people, it can be like you're heavy in the suffering of, you're going through it, okay? Or you're in that moment of bliss, whatever sort of way, there is this joy because you're experiencing a liberation. That's what joy is. You're liberating something inside of yourself. Either you're heavy duty in that trauma, that's basically now you're open and you're like, oh my God, I'm available to this deep, deep suffering inside of me, and I'm just kind of spinning off. Or that bliss of, I'm feeling like, whoa, I can do this. I'm very empowered in myself. Whatever way, there's this level of joy because you're liberating. You're having a breakthrough. So something is breaking through you. Okay, so we say breaking through the blocks. Like yoga, any form of yoga is you're breaking through the blocks, breaking through the tension, breaking through the rigidness. Okay, so you can become loose, you become open, you become sensitized. Therefore, more intuitive, more, you have a connection to your wise sort of self. Okay, so in our culture, sex, okay, what we see is a lot of it is I don't even know what's the right correct words. Okay, we are very scared of intimacy collectively. We are, okay. We're very scared of intimacy. We're very scared to actually like really penetrate each other's depth, such as the throat, the heart, the cervix, and the perineum. We actually have, we want to, we have all this kind of sex kind of thing, and we think we're getting close, but we never really feel quite fulfilled, okay, in our sex. So we may get that, that whatever sort of pounding thing going on, and then it's over, and then we're kind of like, we still don't really feel fulfilled, and we're like, okay, maybe I need to try it again, or try it with somebody else. So we think, try it again, or try it with somebody else, because we're all searching for that great opening, that breakthrough within ourselves, within that physical sensation of having a breakthrough. And there are many ways, okay, like white tantric is one of the ways to really create that breakthrough, or kundalini yoga, or any form of yoga that you do to create that sensation of literally something in you is breaking through, a block is literally being maneuvered and liberated out of your body. And that brings this, oh my God, this great, oh my God. But then there's this joy, because something is being liberated inside of you. So sex, we don't really see it like that, okay? We all know sex is quite animalistic, okay? It's very quick. It's very, I can say, inconsiderate, and it's almost very desensitizing. We talk about it. It's kind of numbing. Sexuality can be very numbing. So when we're having sex and our heart is closed and our throat is closed, so we're not really expressing ourselves. We're not being in the moment. So part of the throat and that depth of the throat is you're expressing, like when you're looking at somebody and you're really looking at them, you're saying something to them. Okay, when like we're having sex with someone or something like that, we're really looking at them, really looking them in the eye. That is your throat becoming wide open, and you don't need to speak. You don't need to say, "I love you," or "I am enjoying in this," or "you make me so happy." Just that full eye gaze, that full, I'm looking at you, I'm here, I'm available. That is the language of your throat. But a lot of us in the animal's culture of sex, basically what we're doing is we're like closing our eyes, we're pounding it out, our eyes are in some sort of porno or some sort of fantasy, either with this person or with somebody else. And we're like, okay, I'm getting that whatever feeling, and it's just completely, there's no sort of experience happening with that person. So we think sex, you put the penis in the vagina and you whatever kind of thing, that's an experience. No. You could tell people, usually men, who have an experience of just like sex, and then actual, we call that intimacy, okay? Usually that intimacy part, they never forget. But the whole kind of thing where they're like zoned out, the other person's zoned out in some sort of, porno in their head that they're replaying something, okay? Usually you can forget about that pretty easily, because it's like, it doesn't bring the depth out of you. And something that brings the depth out of you, that's intimacy. Because like I said, it's like scary, like you feel like you're suffering because you feel like, oh my god, this is really intense and it's kind of a little bit scary on me, okay? But at the same time, you're experiencing that bliss to feel so open, to feel this energy moving through you and breaking through you, bringing you what we call like this oneness consciousness, or this bringing that sensation of being, we talk about in awe. Do we actually feel like in White Tantric Yoga, I'm like in awe. I'm like, I'm so much in pain. I'm like, because you hold the position for a long time, just like, a relationship, you can kind of hold it for a long time, and sometimes it's suffering and sometimes it's bliss, but you hold it because you're having a breakthrough. You're liberating this, okay? And you're like, oh my god, this is like so much, and I'm like, have to hold this for 20 more minutes? I'm like, oh my god, like, no thank you, okay? But then the bliss, that feeling, that joy comes through, that closeness, that closeness, it brings you closer to being in awe of your partner, being awe of yourself, being awe of nature, being awe of creation. Do we actually think of that when we're having sex? Like, I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of me. I'm in awe of this. I'm in awe of creation. I am in awe of nature. Like, oh, no. A lot of us are not really, it's kind of that kind of thing, and it's like, oh, okay. So with the animalistic sex, while we're seeing kind of like, like I said, I didn't really feel much with this, so maybe I'll try a different person. I didn't really feel much with that person, so I'll try a different person, okay, that kind of thing, is because when the depth of our being is very blocked off, there is nothing intimacy can't move through those areas, okay, can't move through. So that's why sometimes in order to really penetrate these areas, we have to develop these areas first. We have to work on them. For example, let's say you're a person who's a very closed heart. You probably don't want to just jump into sex with somebody, because you're going to get, your arousal or ejaculation or whatever, but it's not going to be very fulfilling. Okay? So a part of the practice, because sex is a practice. You don't just, sex Tinder, let me go kind of thing, because that always ends up, oh, that was not very fulfilling in the long haul. Okay, that didn't bring me intimacy. That didn't bring me closer to, I'm in awe of me. I'm in awe of you. That kind of innocence, that kind of joy, okay? So a lot of times, like, preparation for sex, especially if you're like with somebody, okay, usually sex is the last thing you do in the tantric practices. Okay, usually you have to go through like the other tantrics that have to do about opening up the heart, opening up the throat, opening up the cervix or the perineum, that lower chakra energy. And a lot of times in the tantric practice, it can be years before that master can get to actual, we call, sex, okay? But in our sort of relationship, a part of creating that intimacy in that sex experience, that's very sensitizing, it's very comforting, it's very warming, okay, it warms you up kind of thing, and we talk about being warmed, okay, is developing that opening of that heart in that relationship through heart-to-heart conversation, through friendship, through support, encouragement, these kinds of things, and then opening up the throat, which is kind of being present with each other, being aware of each other, interacting with each other, really listening. It doesn't have to be speaking, it could just be around each other and just allowing each other to unfold. That's kind of opening up that throat. And then when we talk about that cervix or that perineum is naturally, it opens in a relationship when we start to, we get those tingles, okay, through our body. We get those sensations that pass through us we talk about just naturally of, we call being in sync with someone, okay, or being in a rhythm with somebody. That just naturally comes. Okay, as we, open our hearts, we start, we express ourselves, we are present with each other, looking each other in the eyes thoroughly, kind of thing. What happens is that naturally we start to get in rhythm with each other. And the more we're in rhythm with each other, the more the sex experience is going to be very rhythmic. So a lot of times the tender stuff is almost like a cheap. It's kind of like a cheap thing that you do to get that quick feeling of intimacy, but it quickly falls out. Meaning you get some sort of glimpse of intimacy with somebody, okay? Like such as friendship and looking each other in the eyes and being in awe of you and I'm in awe of me and this and wow, like we're really listening and that kind of thing. We're really connected, that thing. But usually that lasts for maybe about like 10 minutes after whatever sex, and then you're usually like, I actually don't know you, you don't know me, I don't feel like there's any connection going on, bye, okay, kind of thing. Okay, because we can't expect us to just all be in rhythmic with you, to be rhythmic with each other. Just meet somebody on Tinder and I'm in a rhythm with them. Sex is a rhythm. It's knowing, it's like a symphony, you see it like two people jamming. You meet somebody, usually don't just jump into what you call recording a song. If you just met, let's say you're, violinist and they're a celloist, you don't just jump into the studio and just make some song when you don't even know each other. Usually what you do is you jam, you talk, okay, you play your instrument, they play theirs, and you kind of, okay, you're good at that, I'm good at this, so I'm going to play this kind of way, and you're play that way, and I think that's going to really complement each other. It's kind of like, songwriters or musicians that are kind of collaborating. That is very much what we call rhythmic. So, you see your partner as he, okay, or she is like a violinist, and you're a celloist. And they have their own rhythm, their own niche, their own talent, okay? And their talent, their strengths are going to be different from yours. They could be really strong at certain areas, and you're strong in other areas. So what that rhythm, how these two instruments that are, could be even really different from each other, how they really come together, we call rhythmically, where it becomes what we call one. Have you listened to music? It's like, oh my God, this is one sort of thing. It's one entity, such as a symphony. It's one entity. A part of that is that going through that preparation of learning each other's strengths, encouraging each other's strength, is learning how to collaborate with them, learning how to create space for them, and they create space for you. Learning to listen, just to be there, present, because you have to be in a symphony. You have to be a good listener. You have to listen. You have to listen. You have to take in. You have to be in it. It's like it's like in a current. You got to get in that current. The only way to get in that current, as you could say in an orchestra, is you got to really listen. You got to really be synergized with the overall entity of the orchestra. So a lot of times our sex is so arrhythmic, where it's just kind of like, I'm trying to get my fantasy, they're trying to get their fantasy, and our fantasies are not they're totally different. Okay, that person's fantasy is somewhere with somebody else or something, and my fantasies with somebody else, and then we're sort of trying to interlock these fantasies together, and it doesn't create really much intimacy. Okay. So, And what happens a lot of times with I'm noticing the this kind of sex culture, what I'm seeing it going on is as we continue, you know, have more sex, we can actually get more numb by doing that kind of thing. It becomes more desensitizing than it actually becomes sensitizing, where it really opens us up. It really moves us. Talk about jazz. Like, I'm moved. Or Bob Marley, I'm moved by this. And when we're moved, it's not like, I'm moved, I'm getting the fuck on, or something like that. No. Move is like a very gentle, it's a very like joyful experience. Okay, being moved, usually being moved by like jazz or like Bob Marley, that kind of thing. It's like I am moved to be more compassionate with life. Even you can think of like even Michael Jackson. You know, we're moved by these figures. I'm moved by that song. I'm moved by that dance. I'm moved by that symphony because it makes me feel more compassionate. And there's nothing greater feeling than to feel more compassion for yourself and for people around you. And that animal sex culture does not provide that for us. It does not make us feel more compassionate for ourselves and for others. Okay. And therefore, that's why it doesn't really bring intimacy for us. And it overall, it's not fulfilling. It's just a cheap, we call it cheap win. A cheap win. And that cheap win is never opens us. It never opens our doors. It never gets that heart open and looking out at the world like, yes, there is, yes, it's like that allness of just, I don't have much to say. It's just, okay. So a part of that, like I said, is working on the heart, working on the throat, expressing yourself, looking at each other, friendship, which is, learning each other, being collaborative, being inclusive of each other, creating space for each other. And then we talk about that cervix or that perineum for that guy, these three depths, okay? The cervix, the perineum is a part of that natural sensation, the tingles that we get or the butterflies that we get kind of thing, where we start to feel like we're in sync with somebody, and not in an interlock. I'm interlocked with you and I'm kind of like about it. No, it's like a violinist and a celloist getting in sync with each other. It's very moving. It's not entrapping. Okay, so the interlock a lot of people are experiencing, where I keep thinking of this person, they keep thinking of me, we're not talking, that's an interlock. And usually those interlocks are very, what we call, not very fulfilling, and they're can be just very bothersome for a lot of people. Okay, because interlocks is not intimacy. Okay, no. It usually has to do, we're interlocked with something inside of ourselves that we don't want to express, we don't want to look at, we don't want to release, whatever it could be. It could be a memory, it could be a person of the past, it could be a thought of sabotage, it could be an unspoken word, whatever it is. But a part of being, you are in sync with somebody. That's a different thing. In sync is you're collaborating with somebody. Collaborating is, I'm a violinist, you're a celloist kind of thing. And we want to listen, we want to share, we want to include each other, and we want to both create space. You cannot create an orchestra if the celloist doesn't care to show up, if the saxophone player doesn't care to show up. You can't create a symphony like that, okay? A symphony implies that everybody involved wants to participate, wants to grow in this. Okay, and if they don't, then they can go somewhere else, kind of thing. They want to participate, they want to grow in that, and they're finding their joy, they're finding their depth in being involved in this entity called everybody becoming one, sort of thing. Listening, it's like one song. It's not celloist, it's not saxophone player, it's not violist, it's not cello, it's not pianoist, it's not drummer. It's called one. The one orchestra, the one entity. And that's what we all yearn to experience with each other, but we're also very immature about. We're immature about our heart. So our feelings can be immature about, looking at each other, being, aware of each other. We can be immature about even our sex with each other. Okay. And that creates interlocks. When we're very immature about sex, it creates interlocks where we don't really know them, they don't really know us, but we're sort of feeling like tied to them emotionally, and we're feeling like kind of this dilemma where we're not talking, or that kind of weird stuff. Okay, symphony is like friends, like, it's like kind of things fade out, things come in, and it's not, it's kind of, people transition in life. And that's kind of what intimacy is having that level of maturity where you understand people transition in life. People join the band, people leave the band, okay? We collaborate, and then sometimes, we move on and we have other collaborations. But it's not some kind of thing. It only becomes that because we're not open. We're not open. We're too close. We're too rigid. We're too kind of, it has to be like this. It has to be like this. But when we become open, we become more receptive, neutral. Okay, we become more abundant, where we have the strength to neutralize these relationships and stuff. We talk about being the bigger person. Okay, we talk about having a compassion and understanding. That feeling, you feel it in your heart, you feel the intimacy with yourself. That's your true nature. You feel authentic. You feel like more organic and more native to nature and just to this universe. When you feel that compassion, that intimacy, you feel that allness of, okay, this is what life's about. I feel it. I having a sensation of it. This is what it's about. And that's what we call about getting to that elevation of that oneness with ourselves. This is what it's about. Going to the symphony and listening, this is what life is about. The creation of this great compassion right here. Everybody kind of finding their way together, accommodating, creating space, being generous, giving. This is what it's about. That is that intimacy that we can have with a person in sex, a person in white tantric, a person in, jamming like Bob Marley. I'm jamming with my band member. We can create with or even our dogs kind of thing. Okay. But it takes, like I said, it takes the heart open, the throat open, the cervix, the perineum open. If it's not, then the energy can't move through you. And what is that energy? It's this, it's like that organic, natural, and authentic energy of like your innocence or your inner child. We can say it like that. But if you don't trust your heart, your throat, you don't trust your cervix, your perineum, you're not going to allow it to come through, and you're just going to keep it pretty shallow because you're ultimately afraid. You're afraid to open yourself up and to experience the great suffering of life and the great bliss of life and the great liberation that happens when you allow yourself to be intimate with life. So we're all terrified of being sensitive. We're terrified of being vulnerable with somebody because we all have this attachment to it not working out. It not working out. So before we actually even give ourselves to somebody, we're like, hey, it's not might work out, so I'm not gonna like put myself in it. I'm just gonna be like kind of like this. I'll be with you, but I'm gonna be doing this the whole time. So we can go on a date and we can go hang out or whatever, but I'm gonna be like this the whole time, where I'm closed off. I'm like, you can only get so much out of me. And that is so unfulfilling. We want to get everything. It's like, but we're terrified of that sensitivity because collectively we're still very immature about our emotions and about relationship and maturity. They're a team. So if a relationship is immature, usually because our emotions are quite immature, they're a team. So when we start to get wiser, when we start to have a strength, a compassion with our emotions, okay, a strength with our heartbeat, okay, our heart gets stronger. We have relationships that are like that, where our relationships tend to be strong. They strong as in, they have a strong sort of spirit around this. They're not kind of fickle, fickle, where they're just kind of like here and there, and I'm here, and no, I'm not there, and I'm over there. Okay, usually if it's like that, it's because our emotions. We're here, we want to open, then we don't want to open, and then we want to be somewhat open, and then we want to be all the way closed. So when we start to mature, where we start to get very steady, very strong within our heart being open, or our heart being very receptive, very neutral, then our relationships we start to see relationships where this person is actually they're very steady. This relationship is very steady because you are steady as an emotional being. So it's kind of look at your emotions and look at your relationships, and you'll see kind of like, you'll see a mirror going on, okay? So with sex, it also, it can mirror to us, oh gosh, it's like how much intimacy do we invite into our life? Intimacy is not I meet somebody on Tinder and then tomorrow I'm gonna go have sex with them. That's not intimacy. That shows that we are probably like, no intimacy, but I will like have sex with you, and literally I'll have sex with you, but I'll be like this. And I'll just like use my pounding of my penis to get what I want, but I'm gonna like be like this the whole time. I'm not gonna like open my heart, I'm not gonna open my throat, I'm not gonna look at you, I'm just gonna like zone out kind of thing. Okay, that showcases that we don't really know how to connect. And usually when we don't know how to connect with somebody, like be somebody's friend or listen to somebody or look somebody in the eye or express ourselves or to be present and to encourage someone, be supportive and generous and that kind of thing. Usually it's because we're very heavy duty closed in those areas. It's like a little tiny pee hole to a door. Nothing's coming through. No energy is coming through. No abundance can come through that tiny of a hole inside of our heart. It's like, whoa. Okay. So when we start to experience, let's say, sexual experiences that are, we call very fulfilling, usually what I've discovered is that they're with partners that we have a good friendship with, rememberable people that we have a good friendship with. We look at each other, we have fun with each other, like children, we have fun with each other, we look at each other, okay, and we create, like, we collaborate, we're like a symphony together. I play my cello, you play your violin, and together we're the duo of the whatever sort of name. We call ourselves the rose on a vine. That's our name. The one entity. Okay. So that's when we get to experience what we call that sex becomes something that is something that really brings us closer to a very authentic version of ourselves. Have we ever thought, think, is this sex bringing me closer to a more authentic version of myself? We need to ask ourselves. That's a great question. is this person I'm having sex with, either it's every Thursday night, either it's just like, Tinder, whatever kind of thing, is this sex bringing me closer to an authentic version of myself? An authentic version of myself? Or is this sex bringing me further away from an authentic version of myself? Very important. If you ask that question to yourself, you're guaranteed that you're probably maturing emotionally. You're starting to mature. And when you start to mature emotionally, your relationships, you're going to start to attract relationships that bring the depth out of you. The depth out of you. Like a celloist, I'm encouraging you to bring the depth. You can do a little bit better with that cello instrument. I know you can really do something a little bit better. Okay, a little bit better. Okay. Yep, that's pretty good. Okay, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm just going to leave you with this discussion on sex. Okay, so just a little brief thing about sex. For women, okay, sensitized sex, sensitive woman, okay, when you intimacy, it's a very sensitive experience. For women, it's a very meditative experience. We say afterward. Women have more, they have more fire. It's interesting. You think men have more fire in sex because you see, that sort of porn industry depicts men as some sort of, and women as like that kind of thing, But women, it's very sensitive for women, okay? Because women, we're naturally more sensitive. We're more intuitive. So what that means is it enhances our sensitivity, sex. So while we are in the sex, we're very much the fire energy, and men are very much the earth energy. So what that means is, if a man is open and a woman, he's open, meaning his stuff is his heart, his throat, his perineum is open, intimate, available, that kind of thing. Here, present, I'm looking at you, my heart is looking at you, my looking at you, my looking at you, kind of thing. Okay, what happens is that fire of that woman can move into that man, and since men are more dense, okay, and this is ancient sort of sex practices in like we call the sex schools that are somewhere in this world that are still happening, sex schools kind of thing, of like esoteric practices. The woman is the fire, and literally since men are denser, because they're earth, okay, they're very earthy energy, they're very solid, they're very like on the ground, that kind of thing. The fire of that woman, because she's kind of the movement, so she's the movement, she moves the energy, okay? She moves, we think men are the ones that move it. It's a woman. She moves that energy. So what women in this kind of practice is she can move that energy up him. It's weird. It's like up him, okay? Because she is such powerful. She's so powerful. She can move that energy up herself. She can move it up him. And what that does is, for a man, it really, like heat, it really can activate and even stimulate his whole body, you could say chakra systems. It can really stimulate and activate it. Just like a furnace, you're warming up the place. So it can really warm him up. So it can warm up his heart if his heart is a little cold. It can warm up his throat if he can't really express himself, because men have a weird thing. They can't really express themselves as let's say, not all men, but there's a little thing can be a little bit, I'm a little bit nervous about expressing myself. I want to keep it cool. Kind of thing. So they can warm up a man. So if he's getting kind of cold and a little bit too earthy, where he's just kind of, it's like kind of like a little winter tree, women can really warm it up, kind of thing. But a part of after women, more meditative. And after sex, I feel men become more energetic. It's interesting, okay? I mean, this is like the esoterics of it. So after sex, men can be more energetic, as though they're inspired. It's like sex can be a very inspiring thing for a man, because women represent the muse. We're like a muse, we're a muse. Like, we're creative, and when a man allows us to be creative on his body, whatnot, we are creative, and that becomes his muse where he's like, oh, okay, like this is that kind of thing. But if a woman doesn't trust him, that experience is going to be like, you know, submissive maybe for a woman. I'm submitting to what you want, and I don't really care like about your feelings, that kind of thing. Okay, so but when it's creative, when a woman really, when this partner is like a shelter for her, when he is a shelter, okay, like a home, and she's protected in this home, and this made not out of hay, it's not made out of mud, it's made of actual legit, what you would make for a legit house, not hay house, not a mud house, a legit solid house. When a woman has that shelter from a man, basically she's free to be a muse, and she'll be creative because she knows that she's safe with him. And usually women can tell if she's not safe, if a man is immature. Women, we know when a man's immature, and we know when we're not safe. We know that this man is like, ah, and ooh, and ah, okay, that kind of thing. And so usually when we start to feel like a little bit like resistance with the man, usually it's an indication that we don't fully trust him, and therefore the man, he needs to build a stronger house for us. He needs to build a stronger house because we don't really trust him. And therefore we're kind of a little bit like, we're having sex, but we're like a little bit pulling back because we don't really trust him. So that's why when men are just wanting women on Tinder, just, you know, some hot sort of one night stand kind of thing, the reason it's not fulfilling because women are not going to trust a guy that they just meet. If they do kind of just, you know, have sex, usually they're still holding back. Men don't realize that. If I'm gonna connect with you on Tinder, I'm gonna have sex with you that night, you know, I may like do it, but I'm gonna be holding back. I'm not gonna be emotional. Oh no. And I'm not gonna look at you. Oh no, because I like no. But I'll give you a little bit of like some warmth, but it's not gonna be very warming because it won't get to your heart and it won't get to your eyes, you know. So after sex for a woman can be very meditative. So kind of, that's a time when women, that fire, okay, it becomes very like, it comes more like water. It's weird. That fire becomes more like water, where that meditative, we become more like even emotional after sex. It can be a very just time to just kind of think. Like, you know, like poetic. It's just a time like I'm feeling poetic right now. I want to go take a bath. I want to go take a walk. I'm sure women have, you know, after sex, I want to take a walk. I want to go take a bath. That's sex kind of, you know, that's how women really reflect on the intimacy with their partners. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to take a shower. I'm just going to like be in the elements of like water, listen to the river or you know, listen to the rain kind of thing. While men after it, they can be very like elevated, like kind of shocked, like kind of thing, where they can be even more, they can be energetic, where they're like, you know, whoa, like, you know, kind of thing. They're feeling energetic. So usually for men, since they have so much heat, they may, you know, tend to, maybe they want to eat something or something like that. Okay, like dates or something like that. Because they're feeling this warmth, and they're feeling like whoa. So that maybe they calm it down by like eating, you know, certain foods to kind of like, you know, when you get so, like you want to calm it down a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of like a man's, you know, the esoterics of the ancient sex school, of like, you know, sex schools. Okay, yes. So I hope that this has been of service and can help you have a more intimate experience. I get very sad when I hear women and men telling me, you know, about the one night stand stuff, and how they're really, they feel like emotionally kind of like a mess. They feel kind of interlocked with these partners. They're confused by these partners, and it makes them feel almost less. They feel less about themselves after. I've been noticing like a theme. A lot of people feel like a lot of times less about themselves after, you know, that kind of thing. It's almost like it opens you up and then it just abandons you. You know what I'm saying? So part of being open is like, it's a consistency, like yoga. I open my heart every day by chanting, and the reason like my heart gets strong at being open in this aggressive world is because I have a practice of doing it. It's consistency with me. But if I were to open myself up to a man just like for one day, and then he abandons me the next day because, you know, it's a one night stand, I would probably be like, I'm wide open, but then like, oh my God, like he just like left. Like, we all know that ache, you know, that ache of it, where I'm just open and then just like, okay, just leave me open. Like, just leave me real and raw and just that kind of thing. Okay. So in a part of that openness in intimacy through sex or with our partner is that when we get more open, we discover more things about ourselves, about the other, and about our relationship. So when, you know, people kind of, you know, leave or whatnot, it's because they're afraid. They're afraid of what they're going to find in themselves. So they abandon or something like that. They're like, you know, I don't want, you know, bye kind of thing. Because it's more so they're just afraid. They're afraid of being open in what they're going to find, such as their shame, their childhood, you know, wounds, the memories, okay? But intimacy, friendship, is a part of our way, is you say God, our creator's way. You know, that's why there's people, you know, we're not alone. Intimacy is a way to help us to work through those things. So for example, like friends, like you may be really down on yourself that you failed your test, and you may feel like really embarrassed that you failed really bad. And friends is kind of like, it could even be your mom, or it could be your brother or something like that, where they say, you know, you're gonna do, here, I'll help you study. I know you feel really bad about this test you flunked, but I'll help, you know, maybe I'll get you a tutor as your mom, or I'll as your brother, I'll help you. I'll help you study math. Every night we'll study those math problems, and I'll help you. Okay, that is intimacy. That helps us to work through the discouragement that we experience constantly on this planet Earth. Okay, but right now, since we are so afraid of each other, we're all afraid of each other. We can't really, we don't feel like we can take solace in each other. So we're like, I'll just be alone kind of thing. Or I'll be with somebody, but I won't really be with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because we're afraid. But we're not always going to be afraid. Okay? A part of gaining your strength in your heart chakra, okay, is trusting yourself, trusting that your intuition, that whoever you're seeing, okay, trusting, okay, does this encourage and support me to be my most authentic version of myself, or does this destroy me? Does this belittle me? Does this make me feel like crap? Okay, so ask yourself that. Does it support and encourage me to be an authentic version of myself? And that's our intuition asking us pretty real questions that can help us to stay clear of what we call the aggressions on us from life, okay? And to move into what we call community, okay? Where true intimacy can take place, where we can be collaborative, creative, and character building with each other. So yes, this is my take on sex. So do what you will with this lecture.